Hey, what up? It's Owen from Real Social Dynamics. I'm just hanging out with my business partner and Real Social Dynamics co-founder, Nick Coe. And today I thought we'd go into a video that he did a couple years ago on the topic of business and networking.
Well, in this video, I talk about behind the scenes of Real Social Dynamics. I wanted to introduce myself by going through the history of how I got into Real Social Dynamics and why we created this company from my viewpoint, how I networked, how I built a mastermind. Within Real Social Dynamics, we created a mastermind of highly successful people. People that are really great at transforming people's lives into dating, relationships, and what have you. And those same skills, why we created this company calling it Real Social Dynamics as opposed to dating dynamics or something else, are completely transferable to business, your life, your social game skills. All that stuff I wanted to put together into a program called the Founders Club. Now in the video that I created, I wanted to share with you guys through Tyler and his YouTube channel. I created just to show you guys some of the business knowledge I learned from building Real Social Dynamics. Not because I believe everyone should be an entrepreneur, I don't. I think most people should never consider being an entrepreneur, but everyone should be considered entrepreneurial, which I define as someone who's innovative and creative. And a lot of those skill sets totally transform your dating life and your social skills.
Cool, so just thought it'd be fun to throw this up there. A lot of people have asked us questions about Nick. I've had that over the years, so this is kind of a cool way to get some content up online for you to enjoy and to see a little bit behind the scenes of Real Social Dynamics. So a little bit of a curveball at you today, but something that I think you'll enjoy. Let's do it.
Enjoy the video. So when I was growing up, I came from a very conservative Asian background, and in the summer times, I would work various internships. I started off doing computer programming internships, working in finance in Wall Street, and then when I went to university, on my last year, my father thought I was going to be an investment banker. I was going to go work in New York City and maybe work for Goldman Sachs. So I was celebrating my birthday at a Mexican restaurant called Chevy's. It's an American restaurant where you wear a sombrero on your birthday. You get this like big sombrero full of chips and salsa, and then you wear the sombrero. So I'm wearing this big sombrero, and my parents said, so now that you're about to graduate, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna go to New York City? Are you gonna become an investment banker? I said, well, recently I met this magician. That starts off really bad. So I go, recently I met this magician. And then I met this guy who's a cover story writer for Rolling Stone. I met this guy from the internet, and he goes by the nickname Tyler Durden. And what we're going to do is we're going to take guys out to bars and clubs. We're going to pick up girls with them as their wingman, tell them exactly what to say, what to do demonstrations, and then at the end of the day, we'll go debrief, maybe somewhere like Denny's, and we'll tell them what they did right and wrong. So my parents look at each other, and they laugh hysterically for 5 minutes straight. And I was looking at them and I said, no, this is serious. And after about 5 minutes of them, they're just laughing hysterically. They told me, that was the funniest thing you've ever said. They're crying at this time. Until about 4 months later, I move into a $6 million mansion dedicated to picking up girls. Then they're saying things like, we're going to disown you, we're going to cut you out, we're not going to pay your college tuition, and everything's gone downhill from there. But now they're really supportive of the business. But just out of curiosity, who here actually has heard about Real Social Dynamics before actually coming to this seminar? All right, awesome. I actually recognize some of you guys. Okay, so that's great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to hopefully sum up a lot of the concepts you guys talked about: publishing, internet marketing, sales, some of the ways people actually perform as speakers when they're on stage. And I wanted to try to sum it all up so that you guys could actually create a business upon your own passions, like how going out to bars and clubs was one of my passions. So, first of all, I'm going to tell you guys what Real Social Dynamics is, since the majority of you guys are completely new to who we are. So we do live seminars since 2002, sorry. So we've been doing this for a long time. We're doing it in 270 cities and 70 countries. In fact, in 2008, I actually personally went to every single one of those cities and countries and ran a seminar for 4 hours. We do over 1,000 seminars a year, all of them in English. But we have over 1,000 people working for us around the world. We're ranked as the 860th fastest growing company in the world according to Inc. magazine. And it's mostly due to word of mouth. It wasn't until recently that we actually started spending money again in advertising. Yeah, 1 year we spent a lot of money in advertising, but right now we spend less than $50 a month on advertising. And most of that is just retargeting ads. And for those of you that are new to internet marketing, I'll tell you guys what that is later. So today we're the world's largest dating coaching company. So what we teach is a boot camp. It's a one-on-one, two-on-one, or three-on-one maximum program where you take you guys out to bars and clubs with the wingman, a guy who's not just a wingman, but an instructor who's really good at approaching, talking to girls, getting the girls interested in you, and then giving it to you in your own city, your own hometown, doing demonstrations. We also do seminars, we publish books, DVDs, CDs, monthly membership sites, all the stuff that you guys are learning about and buying in the back of the room for your info seminars. I'm actually probably the only person in the room today who's not selling a business program at the end. I'm just here to offer value today. So I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about my story. So I've been going out to bars and clubs since I was 12 years old. My father was a university professor. He was teaching computer science. So what I had to do was actually take his classes. I created a website little business when I was 13, 14, something like that. And then I went to boarding school. And I guess when I was in boarding school, I got really interested in throwing parties. So I threw my first party in New York City. I rented out a bar and club. It was called Club Apple. And this club eventually went out of business for underage drinking, probably because they were renting out the clubs to people like myself who had a fake ID that said I was actually over 21. And then when I got into college, I started throwing really elaborate parties. These parties were in national magazines, and they were crazy. Things like renting out 2 giant 55-foot motor yachts, and then like having masquerade balls with like ice sculptures, inviting celebrities, doing all sorts of crazy events. But even though I met a lot of pretty girls from this, I actually wasn't able to get girls that were actually interested in dating me. They were interested just in going to my parties, so I was really interested in learning how to change that. So I was in my fraternity, I was throwing parties, and one day one of my fraternity brothers said, hey, there's this website dedicated to picking up girls. It talks about all these tactics, and they're really fascinating. You should go check it out. So I checked it out, and I got so intrigued by this, I decided to drop everything I was doing. It was my senior year in college. I was at the University of Wisconsin studying economics and engineering, and I decided that what I was going to do is just stop showing up to class, just showing up for tests, and just traveling around the world meeting all these guys that were talking smack on the internet about picking up girls. And what I did was just got so intrigued by these guys, thought they were so talented, I decided to just start writing articles and posting until I was about $60,000 in credit card debt. And I had no job, I had no way to get out of that necessarily. So I guess one day, one random guy was reading one of my articles my friends were writing on the internet, and thousands of people were reading this at the time. And he said, you know what, I'll pay for your flight down to San Diego to actually meet me. And I met the world's strangest person on the planet. Because I actually said yes. I said, but I was hanging out with my buddy Tyler at the time, and he said, hey, tell him that I'm the missing piece to his game, and that I have to go down there with you, or else he won't go. So I wrote Tyler is the missing piece. And he actually flew both me and my buddy Tyler down there. So we met this guy, and he was the strangest guy. He had a tattoo on his arm that said, for a good time, call my mom. And underneath that was his mom's telephone number. And he'd walk up to girls and show them the tattoo, really proud, because he was on this MTV show, it's prank show, and he got put unconscious, and he woke up with this tattoo. And he's so proud that a TV show actually put this tattoo on his arm. So this guy was a 29-year-old virgin. He was also a 13-year in college student who just didn't graduate, had no friends. He had never dated a girl. He was super awkward, super weird. The first thing he did was take us to his bedroom and show us a collection of sex toys. And he's like, hey, you want to touch this? I'm like, no, I don't. And he took us to where we were sleeping, and this place had no heat, no electricity. We were sleeping on the floor, and he had to build a bed out of clothing from our suitcase. And this guy said, you know, I want you to help me pick up girls. So we went out for 2 weeks to his campus at UC San Diego to pick up girls. We did demonstrations, we walked up, and after 2 weeks, he got some phone numbers, but nothing much more than that. But then we just decided to go for like 1 week in Los Angeles, just a short drive from San Diego. So we go out there, and he meets this 6-foot model, actually gets a kiss from her, and he starts posting it on the internet. Now, anyone who's this weird and actually meets us from the internet is very vocal as well. So this guy was probably the most famous internet troll on the internet at the time. This is back in 2001, 2002. So everyone knew this guy as the famous super weirdo. And so he said, look, I just kissed this gorgeous model, and these guys came down and showed me how to pick up girls, and they helped me out. So everyone's like, no, these guys are complete figments of your imagination. They're fabrications. They don't exist. So we decided that what we were going to do is we post on the internet and said, actually, we actually did it. And if you want, meet us at Starbucks Coffee in New York City at Union Square. And we will actually just share with you some of the things we did. So we went down there, and we had about 40 people show up. So we decided to organize, right in the middle of Starbucks, a 40-person, 2-hour seminar talking about how to pick up girls. And at the end, we're completely broke. I'm over my limit with my credit card. And we said, you know what, I actually flew out here just for you guys. So I was crashing the couch of a random guy I also met on the internet. And I said, if any of you guys want to come out with us this weekend, we'll actually pick up girls with you, be your wingman, it'll be a lot of fun. And all you have to do is show up on Friday and give us $600. So if one of you guys shows up, it covers all of our costs. So out of that group, 18 people showed up that weekend. And so me and my wingman, we took these guys out to the bars, the clubs, the train stations, Union Park, Union Square, Central Park. We picked up girls at the demonstrations. It was some pretty crazy stuff back then because we actually met these guys during a time when on the internet, people were practicing NLP and hypnosis to pick up girls. And they were doing the weirdest things on the planet. And the fact that we could actually show them that you don't need to hypnotize a girl for her to like you was just a shocking epiphany for these guys. And as a result, these guys actually got to CES, and it kind of blew their minds away that they could actually start approaching girls, picking up girls. And so we decided to do the same thing the next weekend in San Francisco. So we organized an event at the lobby of the Marriott Hotel. And then we went down to the lounge bar area. And the cool thing about big hotels like the Marriott or Hyatt or whatever is that nobody goes to the bar area. So we actually had another large group of like 30, 40 people show up, and we didn't have to pay a dime for the venue. We just had a group there, and we said, look, if you guys want to come out with us this weekend at $600, show up. And another 18 people showed up. So we said, this is amazing. We did it next weekend in San Diego, next weekend in LA, the next weekend in Miami, next weekend in London. We had 60 people show up for that weekend program. And about 4 months later, we took over this $6 million mansion in the Hollywood Hills, put down a deposit. It's the former Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra party house, the Rat Pack Mansion. And I've decided that I was going to turn this into a training facility in our office and live this awesome lifestyle. We called it Project Hollywood Mansion. And the goal was to live the lifestyle of the stars. And we were doing this just to meet more girls. We just wanted to meet more girls. We said, look, we're going to live this awesome lifestyle. It's going to be crazy. So what I did is I took this experience I had when I was in the Air Force Reserve's Officer Training Corps. And in that program, you could go on a boot camp. And their boot camp was you go to a military barracks, it's full of bunk beds. So what I did is I filled this mansion with bunk beds. And you could go to this mansion for $1,500, stay there, and then instead of a drill sergeant, you have some pickup artists talking to you about how to pick up girls. You go out to the bars and clubs, you bring them back to the mansion for an after party, and it got great results. Started doing this every single weekend for $1,500. Then she raised it to $2,000 and had all sorts of crazy, crazy experiences. You know, everything from having Courtney Love live with us and running around our house naked and stealing stuff from our roommates, to having rock stars coming over performing, to having crazy like parties, having like one of my roommates was like a writer who wrote the autobiography of Jenna Jameson, and he was hooking up with porn stars in their backyard. And then we're teaching programs every single weekend, every single week doing this. And at the same time, I decided to go to get my MBA. So I did that. Went through one MBA program I thought was so awesome, signed up for another one. I signed up for the program at USC afterwards, did that, and it was just awesome. And after a few years of teaching this program, I decided I was just gonna start hiring instructors, like Ozzy, who's you can see behind the camcorder in the back of the room. And I decided that what I was gonna do was also stop teaching, focus just on the business administration. And I got involved with throwing parties, and one of the people that threw a party at our house got involved with throwing this party called Xeni, where every weekend they would rent out these movie studios and mansions in the Hollywood Hills. People paid anywhere from $1,000 to $20,000 a month, had about 1,000 members, and it was amazing. It was the way to get around the whole like all-night party rule, where and in California, all the bars have to close at 2 a.m. But if you have a private party, you could have it all night long. So we were able to have all-night parties. You had like gorgeous girls, everyone from People Magazine you ever heard of, famous musicians perform, until like the party organization got the plug pulled on it. And after that hit, the recession also hit. And so I decided that in order to make ends meet, because when the recession hit, our revenues got demolished temporarily. And so what I decided to do was organize a world tour. So we got rid of the mansion. I moved into a place outside the mansion in Pasadena, got an office, and decided to organize a tour. So what I did for the next year and a half is I took every single city in the world that had English-speaking people and a population over 1 million people and that was not at war, and just put it on the internet. And at the time, we had millions of people on our website. And I decided that if I just go to these cities, because our content is just so awesome, when people actually see our in-field video footage, hear our instructors speak, learn, and actually see the life improvement changes in their life, because remember, we don't spend money on advertising, it's all word of mouth. They'll go through this program and it'll just be sold. So I'd go to these seminars. Average seminar was like 40, 50 people, but sometimes it was like 400. And I'd convince 20% of them by the end to sign up for one of our programs at the end. And it just allowed us to grow from there. I took a train on Eurorail, 21 days, 21 countries. I drove my car, which was at the time the fastest BMW in LA. It was a modified 3 Series that had a custom-made engine. It had a traffic light changer, the kind that the FBI used. It had custom everything. It's like Fast and Furious style. I would head-to-head with the Lamborghini Murcielago and actually beat it at the California Motor Speedway. And I drove this car. I actually put a post, kind of like how Craigslist, you put up posts. We have something called RSD Nation, which is our own social network just dedicated to people who are fans of us. I put up a post that, hey, anyone who wants to be my intern could drive my car around the country. And we would just go and do these seminars. You'd be my intern, you could help carry my bags, you could drive me around, you could do whatever. So I had 50 people apply for their job. I chose one guy, this guy named Big Ray. He was like the high school football quarterback for his school, and he decided to drive my car around the country, and I did 1 to 3 cities a day of seminars, morning, afternoon, evening, different cities, just driving around from city to city, doing these 4-hour seminars that upsold our programs, but also gave great content. Today it's called the RSD Free Tour, and it was an awesome program. I actually took guys into the field, and when I did it here in London, my favorite story was actually doing it from London, because I took everyone in the field as an exercise to go pick up girls. I said, everybody, there's 300 people in the room, everybody now has an assignment. For the next hour and a half, you're going to do what I call Mission Impossible. It's not because it's an impossible mission, it's because you're going to be pushing your boundaries beyond what you think is beyond the world of possibilities for yourself. You entered this room about 30 minutes ago. None of you guys thought you'd be actually meeting and approaching girls, but that's not happening. For the next 90 minutes before you guys come back to the room, we're going to actually have you guys do an approach. So this time, instead of sending them to all different locations, I sent all of them to Harrods. And they each had to approach 3 girls. The thing is, there's not that many girls in Harrods, so all of them are approaching the same girl. One guy would approach a girl, and she'd say, he would tell his story. At the end, we do a debrief. He told a story and said, oh, I approached this girl, and she was so awesome. She was way into me, and she had a boyfriend. And then the other student in another room said, no, she lied to me. She told me she did. And it was really fun. So anyway, I did this world tour, and it was a crazy schedule. It looked like this, where basically I had different kinds of seminars, different kinds of programs. I did them all over the world and every day, and I managed my schedule completely myself, just using my own tools like Expedia and all these other global travel tools. So if you guys are interested in global travel and such, I'll share with you guys some tools later on. But I use this stuff, and I also utilized the loyal membership. So what we did was we developed an amazing fan base, just because we offered so much content. I mean, for the first few months of releasing this site, RSD Nation, we spent maybe 4 to 8 hours a day for like a few months, every single day, just posting on it, until nowadays we don't spend that much time posting. We have articles, and they're front page articles, and the amount of time it takes to make these articles is a lot. It's like a complete videos with blogs, and every single day there's new content from instructors from different cities from all over the world, so you get to go through their adventures with them. We utilized this so that I could actually couch surf, so I could find volunteers, people to give me housing, hosting, volunteer to work for us. So in the last 4 years, I've been to 103 countries. I took my wife to 53 of them. I stopped doing a world tour after I met my wife. I actually met her on an entrepreneurs organization retreat. It's like an annual retreat where the EO creates board advisors for you. And she was just walking down the street, and I was walking the opposite direction. And some guys were trying to pick her up. I engaged her in conversation, got her to face more towards me, and I brought her to have some sushi. And I've been together with her now for 4 years. We got married on 12/12/12, so we're newlyweds. Actually got married on my 100th country, which is the Maldives. rented a private island, and if you do a Google search for my name and wedding proposal, you could actually see the video because I posted it for everyone to see. It was pretty awesome. But yeah, we just got married in Hawaii, and then we did a honeymoon in Tahiti and Bora Bora, and I just came back, and now I've been just focusing on ramping up the business again. So it's been really fun, and I'd like to share with you guys a lot of my business stories about what I'm really working on, and kind of like go through the history of how we evolved and how our business also evolved. I actually met someone in the audience earlier today that went to our program 9 years ago. A guy named Joe who was so interested in our program, so fascinated by the program, he actually created a hip-hop rap. And it was so entertaining to me, I actually remembered it. I didn't remember the actual words, but I actually remembered him rapping. Well, I'm going to first of all talk about global business. So, first of all, if you're trying to create a company that does business in 70 different countries, you do not need to incorporate in every single country. It's expensive. I've created incorporated companies for Real Social Dynamics as subsidiaries in various countries, and I realized it was totally unnecessary. It doesn't necessarily help you. It's not necessarily required for you to do business in all these different countries. The other thing is you don't necessarily have to understand everything about the culture. You just need to understand some of the cultural differences and etiquette. After that, in terms of pickup, in terms of like business, it really doesn't matter that much. So much of the world is westernized. Hell, even the Middle East is westernized. I could do programs in Eastern Europe, South America, Central America, Western Europe, Asia, anywhere. You know, even in cities in India, there's still a market for you. You also don't need local banking. You know, I have bank accounts, you know, that are utilized by me in different countries, but that's just because I don't want to lose that 10 to 20% when you convert the money, the cash that you get. You don't need to understand different foreign languages. I could speak Spanish well enough for maybe an elementary schooler, even though I spoke it for like a decade, but I don't speak any other languages other than English. I don't need a physical office. I run my entire company and manage them by Skype, Google Docs, and other web technologies that I'll tell you guys about. You also don't need to have any employees help you out. Every single person in the company, including myself, is an independent contractor. As a result, if I want to terminate somebody, there's no issues. There's no regulations. You don't really need employees unless you have a physical office. There's a 9-to-5 job, and you have like a physical location where people work and make money. But if you're processing all the money over the internet, you're not necessarily taxed or governed in the same way that a normal company is. And as a result, you can just make independent contractors out of people. They could be treated like vendors. You don't have to withhold taxes. They make more money themselves by writing off the money that you pay them. You don't need a lot of legal work. We have a great attorney, the same attorney as Paris Hilton and several other people, who does awesome trademarks, copyrights, and what have you. But nowadays, we just use their templates. We get an attorney to create a template and just modify it ourselves. It's very easy. You don't have them review it. You don't need a lot of startup capital either. I started with nothing. I started off with a bunch of debt, pretty much. That's pretty much it. I just basically had a lot of credit card debt and grew from there. I didn't need any VC money to grow this company. Also, you don't need to outsource your marketing to agencies. I used to go to seminars with guys like Armin Morin, who you guys met earlier, or other internet marketing seminars on business, and I also just read a lot of PDFs that I just found for free on the internet. And I used that. Plus, I had a great mentor, a guy named Corey Rudel, who created this company that was called the Internet Marketing Center. At the time, it was like the grandfather of internet marketing. And since so many of you guys here are from Mark, who's the laptop millionaire, he had this program called Insider Secrets in Internet Marketing. I don't think it's available for sale anymore anywhere, but it was like my Bible. Maybe you could find it somewhere. It was like a 900-page Bible that I kind of followed, and it teaches you basically everything you need to know. And top university advice isn't really expensive either. I live in Harvard Square. My wife is a Harvard student. She's also an entrepreneur. She created multiple companies, and then she decided to get back into her undergrad. One of them is called Smart Money Club. It's like a financial education company, and she's actually selling it right now for $30,000. And if anyone's interested, see me at the end. But anyway, she's taking Harvard classes. She's getting a degree, and I could go to any of those classes I want completely for free. They have it open for the community, and there's so many different programs like this for pretty much any university in the world. So here's some of the technologies I use for my company. First is I use Skype. I use it because I could communicate with everybody, I could do group organized calls, I could basically send quickly and easily messages, and I could have my people work for me from all over the world. I got people working for me in countries, in pretty much every country, from Bosnia to Romania to South America to Asia. We use xe.com/UCC, and we use this because it tells you the currency conversion, so you can look on your smartphone what the currency is and know you're not getting raped by the foreign exchange offices when you're at the airport. I use time zone converters to know what time to call customers. We only call people from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. We use Skyscanner or Expedia to get the best rates on travel. Skyscanner is great because it syndicates all the places that Expedia does, and Expedia is great is because it saves your frequent flyer numbers. So I have the highest frequent flyer levels on all 3 alliances, which is SkyTeam, Star Alliance, and OneWorld. And if you use a site like pfstuff.com, you could actually see which of the airlines, for example, if you could find US Airways, you get credit for United. So I always use United's frequent flyer number. So that way if I have the highest status on United, it passes over to all the airlines. Allows me to fly first class round trip on a dime for free just because all the miles are raking up. And there's all sites on PF Stuff and other sites that tell you how to get more miles. I utilize that like no other. I love Eurorail because I could get a Eurorail pass, and for like 25% of the normal fare, if I just get like a longer term pass, like a 21-day pass, I go to 21 countries for the cost of like pennies where it usually costs. I love couch surfing and Airbnb. This is a great way to actually find places to travel to and rent venues that you could actually stay at for cheap as opposed to a hotel. I love global phone plans. This allows me to keep the same phone number in every city I go to without having to get a SIM card so I can do business. I use Google Maps for everything because that allows me to basically look up pretty much anything I want just by speaking into the phone, and it's quick and easy. And I love points.com to kind of syndicate all my points into one place. And Vonage to basically allow me to route all my calls. And I actually use another service called Answer Connect that allows Vonage to route its calls to different people around the world, with different Skype numbers, so that people can answer my phone any time zone. I can have 24/7 support. So I manage all my sales around the world using custom software. It's something that I built from scratch because back in the day there wasn't Infusionsoft, there wasn't things like Office Autopilot. I built it from scratch, and actually I'm really glad I did, because when I look at stuff like Infusionsoft, who raised tons of millions of dollars from Goldman Sachs recently, and they're awesome for information marketers like yourselves. But for our needs, we need a lot more than that. We need something to manage not just our shipping, our sales, our advertising accounts, our affiliates. We also need something to manage a scheduling program. So we have a scheduling system that allows people to choose any city in the world that they want to do a program. We also have it list all the different cities that you could do a program, allows people to sign up, and super well organized. And I've never seen anything that's able to organize anything like our programs. And as a result, it manages people from wait lists to, because our programs sell out at 3 to 1. So if you have 3 people, we have to have it sell out, and then someone gets put on the wait list. But in order to manage a company this size, I couldn't do it myself, and I definitely couldn't afford to hire the number of people to do it all. So we have a ton of people working for us just with bartering, trading for services. So like I said, we have an awesome program, and it's developed somewhat of a religious cult-like following. It's like people viewing my business partner, Tyler, who's basically like their Jesus, because he's an instructor of all instructors, and then I run the business administration to develop scalable business systems. He trains instructors that go out every night of the week. I can't do that, I'm married. And we've developed a 3-tier hiring system. One is for volunteers. We have over 1,000 volunteers working for us around the world. Second is interns. Interns work for us 10 to 20 hours a week for free in one of our different business units, and I'll talk to you later about what that is and how I organize my company. And we also have full-time and part-time people that are paid, but because we have so many people working for us for free, we can take our pick. Usually 1 out of every 30 people who volunteer to work for us actually get a job. I call it anti-top grading. There's this book called Top Grading that says only hire A-level players. And there's this 10-hour per day, multi-day course where you could take it and pay a few $1,000s to learn how to interview people through this most rigorous interview. So you can only hire A-list players who are also very expensive. Now, I developed a system called anti-top grading where I hire everyone. And then you basically get a little bit more responsibility, a little bit more after that, and a little bit more after that. Anyone who's willing to volunteer any ounce of time. So we have people who work for us for 1.5 years, 2 years, or whatever, completely for free, just for the love of our company and the passion of our company, and then they basically could get a job if they outperformed everyone else. I had a guy who was 18 years old, going to the best university in Switzerland, drop out of school, move to Los Angeles and go through our training program, because we provide amazing training. And for 3 years, this guy was unpaid. Now he became one of our instructors at 21 years old. And it's very easy to sell a guy to become an instructor for our company. I know because I approached Ozzy, and Ozzy's somewhere in this room, and I said to him, at the time he was an English teacher, I said, you know what, I've been reading your stuff on the internet, you got recommended from a lot of our people that you know and have worked with, and if you want to work for this company as an instructor, we'll double or triple your income, we'll allow you to travel anywhere in the world that you want to go, we have enough students for you in anywhere in the world you want to go, and all you have to do is go out every single day, pick up girls, and be very good at transferring those skills to other people. So they sign that contract right away, and they'll get like a high 5-figure or low 6-figure salary if they have their own product and develop their own DVD, CDs, and business and brand. So one of the things that you will always hear is you are the average of the 5 people you associate with the most. So what we try to do is only hire the best of the best. So for our instructors, which the line to become an instructor goes around the block, we make them go through the most rigorous training program. They may travel around the world with other instructors for 6 months, every weekend going out into the field with these guys, and at the end of it, only half of those guys will actually get the job. The other half will just stay in their present position. In addition to that, before they even have the opportunity to enter this training program, they may work for 6 months, a year, 2 years, or even 3 years before they even get that opportunity. But for business, you also want to have that same level to bring you up. So I want to talk to you guys about what we've done in RSD. So for us, I try to get an awesome business team. I have a great finance team, people who manage my accounting, our bank accounts, our statements, our key performance indicator tracking. They share everything at a board meeting. On the board is me and my business partner, Tyler. We share the company 50-50. We're totally ramping things up and crushing it. We got a great marketing team. You know, we have one head for each division. Marketing guys handle all the different ways you can do internet marketing, offline marketing, publicity. We have a great sales team. Sales is actually cross-functional with operations, which manages our instructor schedules. We have IT that manages our back end, our front end, our joint venture partner technologies. And then we have our instructors. Now, the instructor team, we're not talking about instructors. I view instructors on the same level as our executive team, me and Tyler, because they are basically the people who are everything. They're the brand, they're like our rock stars. It's kind of like how Russell Simmons, he built up Def Jam, and he has his hip-hop artists, and the hip-hop artists kind of like on the same level as him. Well, I kind of view like me collaborating and getting all these pickup artists, taking them off the street, turning them into a commercial entity and making an industry out of it, kind of pioneering that. It was kind of like the same path where we want to treat these guys as the superstars, as the face of our company. And so the instructor team is actually the people who are running the video. Every day of the week, they're launching video blogs, articles, posting, managing their own brand and marketing it. So I'm going to talk to you guys about some of those people that have been the most influenced in my life. The first one is my father. My father grew up in the poorest area of the Philippines. It's in Chinatown. He lived in a little shanty-like house that you could see the sky through like the corners of it. It's a place where like if you make like $5 a day, you're feeding a family of 5, and 80% of the money goes to support the entire family on average. Well, this guy went to a private elementary school and a private high school because he was lucky that his mom actually was working at a private school. And they're also really smart people. And what they did was my dad formed like his own mastermind group of schoolmates. And his entire life, he's now 66, he stayed in touch with these guys and became the most successful people. They all studied together. In fact, they all went to 2 different schools. They went to a Filipino school that spoke Tagalog, then they went to an English-speaking school. So they had like over 16 hours a day with the school, because you're also living with your parents who actually teach you as well. And all their parents did the same thing, all these kids did the same thing. They all became like the richest people in the Philippines. One of them became the chairman of Citicorp, one of them was president of Heineken, one of them became the president of the country, one of them became the governor of the region they lived. Actually, the president of the country actually was the campaign manager of student council for my dad. And my dad became a university president, and he also became an executive, took over a Fortune 500 company called DeVry, which does billions of dollars in sales. And this guy was a real pusher. After going through such a hardcore experience, one thing that drove him and drove me is that he'd always challenge me. Everything from the little things like the food on my plate, he would look at the plate and said, look, your eyes are bigger than your stomach, and you're not going to finish your plate. And my mom would always challenge me, so prove your dad wrong. And that kind of always stuck with me, and I always tried to challenge myself, to push myself harder. But at the same time, he'd always support me. For example, he said, oh, you're studying too last minute. And then he would challenge me to get a better grade, to work harder. So he'd stay up all night with me. So I remember I was in boarding school, and on the weekends, He would actually fly from California to New Jersey. I was going to a boarding school called Lawrenceville in Princeton. He'd actually fly up there and study with me. And finals week, I'd stay at his hotel all night just studying with him. I took that kind of mentality into our business for a hard work ethic, because you got to hustle. Every single inch counts. And I think about that all the time when I'm looking at the company. I look at all the little things, and if a competitor comes in, because in our industry, a lot of our students created their one-man operations. Most of them really suck, but there's a few dozen of them in every city in the world I've ever done a seminar. Another guy who's kind of been a close advisor, friend, mentor, kind of person to me has been Tony Hsieh. This guy created a company called Link something, I can't remember. I think it was called LinkShare, sold it to Microsoft for several hundred million, used that money to create a company called Zappos, which sells shoes. And for those of you who sell Kindle books and products, you guys might know that he actually sold that company for $1 billion in Amazon stock. So he was going to our board of directors meetings, our board advisor meeting. He allowed us to go to his office, spend all day with him, and so he could advise us. And he attended some of our programs for fun, and also even sponsored one of my wife's seminars, giving us free lodgings out of his crib. And one of the things that he did for me as an exercise, I'm going to have you guys think about, you guys might want to try at home, was he had all the executives in my company come to his office and said, I want you guys to think about what 5 one words represent what you want your company to represent in terms of its corporate culture, in terms of what you would use to describe your company. So we wrote down 5 words each, and none of us had the exact same words. And I found that was interesting. So I then took that concept and I said, okay, how are we going to actually apply that, though, to our business? Not just our corporate culture, to our business. So I used that to develop goals, key performance indicators. Now, for some of you guys who have significant size companies, you guys might already have this kind of reporting system. But basically what we did is we created a key performance indicator report. This is something where you have the executives in your company write down key performance indicators. I'll talk to you guys a little bit about that later. Another thing that he also talked to us about was how important education was. He wanted us to kind of help him with the education of something that he was developing. It was like a Zappos training university for his staff, because we have an awesome training program for the people who work for us, even if they're working for free. And so what he did was he required all the people in his company, even the guys who are working on minimum wage, to go through a training program to read and learn certain books. Some of the books that he recommended are written up there, and if anyone wants a copy of this list, instead of scribbling down frivolously, I'll give you a copy of it later, just give you my contact information, I can email it to you. But what he did is he gave us a truck of several boxes of each of these books and just had us give it to all of our staff. And then he created this thing called a Zappos tour, which is now actually available to the public if you actually go down to Las Vegas and want to see his company tour, see how he runs the company, because in my opinion, he has one of the 3 most amazing company offices I've ever seen in the world. The other was developed by one of my professors at USC, who's now on my board of advisors and unofficially, who's like the entrepreneur of the year, a guy named Torn Pavia, created this company called Arbitech. And they have Nerf gun wars and super fun place to live and work. And then a guy named Vishen who created a company called Mind Valley. And this is a place where I went there, and after going there, it was the weirdest thing because I felt 2 deep conflicting emotions. It was a paradox of emotions, where I felt a deep sense of sadness and a deep sense of inspiration. I was inspired, obviously, because it was such an impressive thing. I felt sad because it made me question every business move I ever made, and I started talking to him about it now because I see him more often. So going back to the concept of key performance indicators and tracking and education, which I think is very important, because I think the average CEO of a Fortune 100 company has said in a survey in Fortune magazine that they read 2 to 3 books every single month. But talking about key performance indicators, what you should do is you should have every executive in every department in your team create the 10 financial or goal tracking mechanisms that you guys want to track, whether it's assets minus liabilities, revenues, net profits, whatever it is. And then have each of you guys rank it from order of importance. That way you could actually know what's most important to you and keep those priorities in mind. And then what you do is you put a weight attached to it, where the thing that's most important is weighted the most. And then whatever percentage of the goal you are at, you multiply it by that weight, tally up in Excel, and come up with a score after you sum up what that score is. And I thought that was great. It's allowed us to keep our goals and priorities in mind in every single department of my company, and especially at the board of directors meetings. So when I was talking to Vishen from Mind Valley, in Dallas, more recently, he decided to help me upgrade it, because he has FaceTime, which is the most amazing thing. Like, he has 15 to 30 minutes with every single person in his company every single week. And he also has really awesome KPIs. He delivers them this thing called the Report of Awesomeness. Now, I was there in Kuala Lumpur last month, actually just at the Report of Awesomeness, to see how he's tracking these key performance indicators. And basically what they do is they go over all the things that are most important to be tracked and exactly how they refined every single process, whether it's optimizing their sales copy, like tinkering with the system, whether a certain kind of thing converts better than another thing. And I said, this is amazing. And I wanted to share with you what I'm doing now. So I shared with him what I'm doing after having met with Tony and how he inspired us. And he said, well, that's great. Well, there's another thing you could add to it. So I said, what's that? He said, well, here's how we do our tracking. So he gave me a few ideas that I added to my KPI reports. What we do is we also organize weekly tracking reports. And this is so necessary, especially when you have a virtual office like mine. How else are you going to track people from around the world you don't see on a day-to-day basis to actually make sure they're accomplishing what they need to be accomplishing? You know, you're not there unless you have Odesk and you actually could see their screen while they're working, but that's for IT professionals. It's not necessarily the same for other kinds of jobs, especially when you're out in the field. So he said, create a high score, create goals, track it, and then every week see if they've accomplished their goals, and make sure that they don't get downtrodden. Make sure that they have like a minimum goal, a medium goal, and then a stretch goal. And if they at least meet their minimum goal, celebrate it. If they hit their stretch goal, or even beat a high score, reward them. But don't just like bonus incentivize people and just pay them out for just hitting the goals. Make it so that's like a fun, tangible item, something that's not more about the money. Only like increase people's pay if they have new roles, responsibilities, and are actually completing the deliverability of increasing profits to the bottom line. See, a lot of people will hire and make the biggest mistake of hiring people that are gatherers, not hunters, because in this world, there's two kinds of people that you hire, hunters and gatherers. The hunters are the people that actually close deals, increase the amount of money you're making, not just in terms of revenue, but the actual profits. And then you have the gatherers who are supposed to be like, you know, making money, but they're not. They're doing paperwork, they're shifting, and they're useful as well. But the hunters are the people that you really need to hire more of. In fact, anyone who's not a hunter needs to be a hunter. So every single person in my company needs to be trained a little bit on the sales process or sales funnel. So another person who I think is the most important person in your life is going to be your significant other, in my situation, my wife. You know, she's been a great influence on me, and I want to make sure that she's successful in all aspects of her life. So she's traveled to 53 countries with me in the last 4 years, but we have all sorts of goals we want to track. So one of the things I noticed was that most successful entrepreneurs who have multi-million-dollar companies track not just their business life, but also their family life, their personal life, in addition to their business life. So how do you actually track your personal life? If you have financial statements, why can't you have that for also your personal life? So we created our own KPI tracking report for our personal life. So I'll track everything from how many hours I play video games, to how many hours I spend at the gym every single day, to how often we go on date nights romantically, going out to like do one-on-one excursions, how much time I spend with my friends every week, how often I travel versus not travel. This is not an uncommon thing, but it is for most of the world. It's not uncommon for people that are running large companies, people who have the stress and the pressures of being a CEO. And since all of you guys aspire to be CEOs, and some of you guys already are, I highly recommend you guys put something together. Other than that, I want to focus on 3 simple focuses and tie in my company's history so that you could actually see how this stuff can affect you. The first focus is on emotional, the second is intellectual, and the third is financial. So, emotional. You need to have yourself in a stable mindset, an optimistic mindset, and you also need to believe that you need to have it in yourself to accomplish what you need to accomplish. So one of the things that Tony, who's a billionaire, told me is the first thing he needed to do before he wanted to become a billionaire was say, hey, I'm going to become a billionaire. And that stuck with him his entire life until he actually made it happen. In addition to that, people that are really negative or self-draining, I basically cut out of my life. People who always say bad things about other people, other things, or don't see the positive light because there's always a positive thing in anything else, I don't want them around me, so I cut them out. I want to have boundaries, the people who I will not tolerate, boundaries of what I will and won't tolerate within myself. I want commitments. I'll go with my regular commitments with my wife, with my business team, and make sure clarity of expectations is there so there's no social violations in your business or your personal life. Now, intellectually, I always want to be stimulated. I always want to continually learn. I spend tons of money, thousands of dollars going to educational seminars. Every week, I'm at some kind of educational event of some kind. That's why I'm traveling so much. Usually it's not just for our company, but actually to educate myself, educate my team, educate those people who are close to me. I'll even invest in my family's education. So I think that if you guys study things like Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which is my first and favorite book about self-improvement, it talks about the balance. So one of the things a lot of people focus on is spend all their time on business. But without like a principle-centered life, where you're actually centered around things, you lose that focus. And that was what happened to me when I was involved with pickup, where I was just focusing on going out, partying. Then it happened to me in business, where I was working so hard that I did not have time to actually have a social life. So you got to balance it, and you got to continue to learn how to do so. There's financial. I'm not talking about financial in terms of like you need to have like a ton of money. So I know a lot of people will think that you need to have a ton of money to make life in business, or a ton of money to actually go out and pick up girls. But actually picking up girls is actually the one thing you don't need to have money for, because you can basically just go out, socialize, and it's not about money unless you're trying to hook up with some girl that only is interested in that. And for business, I was able to start this company with no money. You need venture capital. All you need is super awesome, talented people. Of course, I felt like every single person I hired was a genius, at least until, at least in our executive team, like our instructors. However, I think that if you have the right people in play, the money will follow. So I want you guys to think outside the box. I think about business as a giant social experimentation laboratory, like a scientist. So a scientist has chemicals. He mixes 2 chemicals together and explodes. He's like, oh, okay. And he mixes 2 different chemicals together and it creates like this orb or something. And he's like, oh, that's cool. And he tracks the results. In business, it's the same thing. And pretty much everything, it's the same thing. I have some friends who created this global sensational phenomenon called the Summit Series, which uses these principles to blow shit up. It's like a private organization. Now, I had a lot of success because of 2 main things. Passion, I love what I'm doing, and execution. Speed of execution is the main determinant about whether you're successful or not. So I'm going to talk to you guys about how all these issues relate by kind of going through the history of my company and those strategic, tactical, and operational decisions that I made to actually make our company successful and turn it to what it is today. So how did I start? I actually created my first website based upon my first approach in picking up girls. So I remember reading about this artist, and this artist would draw and paint and sculpt and made art for women to attract them. So I said, you know what if I did the same thing? So I was at a bar. It was actually at the University of Wisconsin, so they actually brew their own beer. They have an outdoor bar, and it was on campus. And there was this girl sitting by the lake, and I thought she was beautiful. So I took a napkin and a pen, and I drew a picture on it. And I walked up to her, and I said, hey, I saw you over here. I thought you were so beautiful that I was inspired to draw some art for you. And I gave her a picture that looked just like this. And she laughed hysterically. And I sat down with her. We had a good time. I got her phone number. And I was like, this is amazing. And that was just one idea. Because all it takes is one great idea to kind of like optimize your life. One idea to take it in a new direction, to give you momentum, to push things forward. And I was so inspired by that I actually made my first website on geocities.com, a free website. And all it was a stupid picture that I drew for that girl, a Microsoft Paint version of that. And I said, hey, I'm traveling around the world picking up girls. I'd like to meet you if you like talking about picking up girls and you think you're all that. So I meet up those guys that are real, those guys that were not so real, and be their wingman. Those guys who were real and wanted to be my wingman, wanted to go out and actually demonstrate. Because I believe there's a lot of people on the internet talking about how good they are, great dating advice that they could give. And they actually suck. They're all academic. And it's really people who just actually could demonstrate it in the field, especially when people are paying you $2,000. You got to demonstrate and actually know you can transfer those skills to somebody. So I made this website, and I thought, okay, well, this is cool. And this is the first website I ever made. It was in 2002, and I was still getting people interested in our programs. Well, actually, I didn't have any programs back then, but I was getting interested in my articles. And we had thousands of articles that we posted on various random discussion boards. And it got me, from being like this random guy to having a lot of people that are interested in talking to me about picking up girls. I spent maybe 4 to 8 hours a day, sometimes more, just posting on 10 various discussion boards. And I met a lot of people. What's interesting about that is that on RSD Nation, we kind of like have the same thing. But the thing is, on these different discussion boards, we actually organized it. Some of them organize it so you can actually search by city. So if you guys are looking for your own niche to like kind of target for a discussion board, you could then use the city search, target them, so when you're in that city, you could email them, like me, and I would say, hi, my name is Nick, I go by nickname Papa on your discussion board. I'm interested in sharing with you some stories, going out to bars and clubs with you, maybe having a bite to eat with you. Give me your email and phone number and let's talk. Now, 90% of the people that actually gave me their phone number met up with me, and then 90% of those people actually signed up for one of our programs, which back then was only $600. So I did that, and it got me free lodgings with that weird guy from San Diego. That was our very first program, and as a result of him telling everyone else about it on the internet, it allowed us to get that brand reputation. Got us a success story that led to one program to another program to another program. Then we evolved to a program that actually, or a website that actually had text on it. So in 2003, we had a website that looked just like this. I said, wow, okay, let's create a curriculum. Now we've actually done a program. Let's talk about what people would actually learn. So of course, that led to a lot more sales. In the first 3 months, we made $360,000. In the first year, we made over $1 million in sales. Now back then, the internet was a gold mine. I think it still is if you're in the right places. But back then, just having a website to look like this, people are like, wow, you actually have a website? That's amazing. And it actually converted. And it led to us doing those emails and phone calls and the follow-up and closing those sales I talked about. 90% to 90%. Now you gotta be hustlers to be able to close a sale on the phone for like a 90% conversion. But I mean, if you're just inviting them out to have lunch with you, and then they walk in and they're like, by the way, if you actually want to go out with me, you gotta actually give me some money. They're kind of shocked, but shamelessly they actually were like, okay, cool, we'll sign up for a program. They're really interested in meeting with us, especially after reading thousands of articles about what we were doing. They thought, okay, this is cool. So 1 year later, we're in Project Hollywood Mansion, and we were building the company. We created some crappy logo that looks like a football symbol, or it's supposed to be. It doesn't really look like much. We're thinking, oh, this is strategy. You move this way, you do this, you do this. It's like chess or something to represent strategy or tactics for meeting girls. And so we created really great sales copy. We optimized it. We started spending big money. I mean, we spent $7,500 a weekend just to go meet up with the famous copywriter in Reno and learn how to optimize our sales copy. But we just had like an awesome program. And so this website didn't really capture any emails or do any of that, which I think is super important. Kind of sucks for nowadays because you could develop a website better than this in like 15 minutes. But we added an email capture, and we got 18% email capture success, which I thought was great. If you do a website email capture like this and you lead your Google AdWords campaign to it, though, it's going to screw you. You're going to get banned. But as a result of just doing that and marketing emails every 3 days to our email list with 15 pages of email content, giving advice, and then linking back to a sales letter, we created Project Hollywood Mansion, where you could see a seminar in our living room in the pictures on the slide. And now instead of a couch that I'm crashing on, I actually have a bed. So there's a picture of my parents actually helping me make my bed. And I had a jacuzzi in my bathroom that was big. We had a huge mansion right overlooking the Sunset Strip. And it was awesome. So in our company, when we were living at Project Hollywood, we also wanted to make sure, just like how Tony did, it was a fun environment to work. We had a great corporate culture. So we made it so that only the people that we really wanted to hang out with and trust were there. Because I think the most important thing in any relationship, especially business, is honesty, trust, and respect. Now, in terms of like the people we hired, though, they also had to be extremely talented if they want to work on our executive team. And we also treated them very well. So we created executive retreats every 6 months, where for 1 or 2 weeks, we'd rent like a mansion in south of France, or go to Aspen and do the same thing, or go to Sardinia and Porto Cervo, and go to the Billionaires Club, and go out to pick up girls with each other, because there's nothing that's more bonding, other than maybe war, than going out to the bars and clubs and picking up girls with your homies. And we created an awesome corporate culture, sharing personal stories, sharing contact information with the community, updating photos, and doing all that in a monthly report so that everyone in the company that couldn't fly out there, because everyone covered their own costs, would actually learn about what's going on, get to know everyone in the company, especially as the company grew. Because I didn't want a situation where at the time we had like 20, 30 people working for us, people would come and say, I feel like I don't know the other people in the company. So I wanted to change that. I know that Tony takes it a step further and creates a corporate culture handbook where everyone in the company writes what they think is awesome about the company and explains their life story in a very short paragraph. Or what Vishen Nakiani does with his report of awesomeness, so that everyone in the company sees what's going on and gets to know each other. They even organize like weekly game shows and stuff like that. I don't go that far, but we decided also to add cartoons to our website. I thought it was fun. My Bryce, who's my cousin, Bryce is an awesome graphic designer, and he also is a graphic designer of websites, probably the best in the world in my opinion. He used to design websites when he was 16 years old for Bellagio. And I said, look, I'll give you $60 an hour, which is like $120,000 a year. Just work for me instead. And so he designed graphic art for us. That was fun, it was creative. I also like cartoons because unlike stock photos, which can get super cheesy, even though this could be even cheesier, it's cute and it's cool. And we also had like a classy design. Our website's full of these like really cool, classy looking things. And at the time, there's this new technology, which is not so new anymore. It was called hover ads. So hover ads are different than pop-ups because they kind of slide on the website. So as a result, they're not banned from pop-up blockers, and they're also not banned from Google AdWords. So a landing page could actually have it, and this one had a lower conversion rate, 18% to 15%, but as a result, we had more page views by getting rid of that splash page that was just a page to capture emails, which is completely banned nowadays, wasn't banned back then from Google AdWords. And if you don't want to mess up your SEO, something like this is a lot better. Let's get down to business. We had legit sales copy. Every single sales copy was optimized to be about 30 pages with amazing features and benefits. If you want to read some of the best copy, my business partner Tyler is, in my opinion, the best copywriter in the world. We're spending $100,000 a year in internet marketing, business, financial, and other kinds of seminars just to continually educate ourselves. I was in an MBA program that costs a lot of money, and continually educating ourselves. We're working so hard at Project Hollywood Mansion. I remembered several nights where I would be working on my computer, making phone calls, closing deals, and actually doing the customer support myself to get to know my customer, because I know my customer inside and out. Nowadays, you have to use like technologies like rapleaf.com, which basically if you send your emails to it, it'll give you all the stats about what kind of sites they are, their demographics, their age, or whatever. But back then, I just wanted to get to know the customer, so I would just talk to them on the phone. That's how I got to know the customers. Nowadays, you get to know them by doing this live program so often. But basically, I worked so hard. I remember I would work on my computer, lie down in bed, go to sleep, wake up, get back on my computer. And I would do that day after day, working 80 to 100-hour weeks. I'd organize my company into cross-functional teams, so it wasn't like sales was working separately and finance was working separately. Every single department in my company has to work with every other department in some way or another so they understand how the business ebbs and flows. So we have sales working with operations, sales working with marketing, etc. We also got rid of Project Hollywood Mansion because I felt like the way I like running companies, I'm so micromanaging that I decided that if I could just take myself away, as opposed to going to the office and being there and feeling like I'm military style running the company, I could let everything kind of run. We got rid of the office, decided to run things virtually, and I'm a lot happier person for it. I would yell all the time. I was totally unhappy because I wanted to always push things harder. We also had Tyler really focus on developing amazing products. He wasn't just teaching programs, he's developing amazing content, releasing it, and releasing tons of content for free. We're always increasing the free line. I also stopped doing instruction also because of that party organization I was involved with, and I moved to Pasadena just to focus on living in life. And it was a crazy life. I had a life where I had one main goal, and that was to always say yes to every opportunity. So if someone offered to hang out with me for lunch or dinner or anything, I would say yes. Maybe if they said, let's go out to the bars, I'd say yes and only go for like 30 minutes. I said yes to everything, just to always expand and learn about new things. And as a result, I developed an awesome social Rolodex. I was able to host parties at the Playboy Mansion. I was able to have celebrities come to me and tell them to help organize a guest list of girls and just send them several hundred girls that could have parties at their mansions at. Organize like business Rolodexes so I could organize executive retreats. Last year, we organized an executive retreat that Tony Shea sponsored, where he gave everyone lodgings at his crib, and we had 4 mansions, and all these CEOs shared tactics and ideas with each other. And we had like Thomas Keller chefs come and give everyone food, and corporate sponsors pay everything. And I was able to develop that just by always saying yes, always staying in contact. I was always texting, emailing, and letting people know what's going on in my life, and organized my smartphone to do so. And I had a crazy hiring frenzy to grow with their demand, continually hiring every day of the week. modeling Corey Rudolph's business. Now, this is a guy whose emails were so sick. I wish his company was still around, but after he died in a car accident, like a race car accident, trying to give someone else instruction, it kind of disappeared and it got sold to some company, demolished it in the ground. Now it's still in existence, but it sucks. At the time, like, I took his email sequences, his pricing systems and everything, kind of like how you guys have heard about email sequences and everything, and just substituted my own content instead of stuff relating to internet marketing, stuff relating to how to pick up girls. And then I use that because it's a really effective sequence. You take those systems and models, those emails, newsletters that you subscribe to, and model them for yourself, and you do it almost exactly, you could get the exact same results. I always like saying field-tested actions, field-tested results. We had a massive overhaul in curriculum development. After the book, The Game, came out, there's so many people doing canned routines. There was a book about canned pickup lines. And also, it was really ridiculous. But the thing is, we decided to develop more natural pickup. We were focused on guys learning about inner game, physical game, and verbal game to convey the coolest aspects of who they are the fastest, quickest, and easiest way possible. And we wanted to develop that, so that people could develop better humor, better storytelling, better presence, better communication, and have overall better confidence that can be used not just in their personal life, but their business life as well. In fact, next year, my business partner is creating a self-improvement company and self-improvement in general that actually is going to this purpose. He actually kind of has a name for himself, where he's done seminars sharing the platform with guys like Bill Clinton and Jay Abrahams, the guys from The Secret, and guys from the Personal Success Institute and what have you, doing seminars already on business and self-improvement. So one of the things that we're doing that's unique about us, which most people can't do, is developing cutting-edge in-field video footage. Hidden camera video footage in the bars and clubs with the guys who are really good at picking up girls and creating courses out of it. So the first course that we released was a DVD series called Foundation, step-by-step how to pick up girls. It made $100,000 in the first day. It was our first day actually selling a home study course. And people who couldn't fly all the way to Los Angeles to go through our boot camps, this was awesome. They could actually buy a program. It was $369 for a DVD set, $269 for the CDs, or $600 for both. And they went through this program, and it was great stuff. And we decided to use that to create a product launch formula. So here's how it is. Step one is we wanted to develop a massive following of fans by releasing massive amounts of free content. After we got to the point where each instructor has 100,000 fans, they could release a product. Then we have a 30-day countdown to that launch, and that is released on every website. Like on our homepage, RSD Nation, our main site, there's a countdown clock, the banner ads scroll down, or no longer email capture just promotes that product that's about to come out. And then we release a new high-quality article every 1 to 3 days, promoting the product, releasing content, getting people captivated, interested, having them even make comments about what the product should look like, what the product should contain. Then we create like the sales letter for the product with a 2-week bonus period so that when the product is released, you get 2 additional bonuses that are worth twice as much value as the product itself. So we do that, and we actually notice that the bonus period actually triples our sales just in that 2-week bonus period of the first day's sales. So the first day's sales is a certain amount, triples it. And we just email it to our email list. We got a massive email list. We just sent it to tons of people, hundreds of thousands of people every time. Our email list is 500,000, and it's growing. So one of the other things we like to do is combine unique aspects to our sales copy. So it's not like every other cheesy internet marketing sales letter, especially since I think our stuff's a little bit more badass, a little bit more cool, a little bit more fun and casual. So what we did was we did things like adding in-field video so that you could see stuff that shocks you. I mean, you see a lot of like sites that have like fake porn sites dedicated to pickup. We actually delivered real life stuff that was obviously real and obviously amazing. We created comic strips of our life to get people engaged in our humor, have fun. We created a video game for the Blueprint Decoded so that before the launch they would see a video game that attracted people. We created funny before and after shots of our instructors so they could realize that we were all douchebags, we were all nerds before we actually got into the game, and you could actually get to assess yourself. One of the guys who I'll actually show you is actually Ozzy, who's in the back of the room. I think he's a really cool guy, but back in the day, he was a complete loser, and I'll show you why. Actually, he's a pretty cool guy back then also, just massively nerdy. I remember the first time I met him, he had a stuffed animal of a devil, and he brought it with him to the bars and clubs. But now he doesn't do that. He's actually the guy whose boot camp I'm all after. He wrote an awesome book, and I'll tell you guys about that if you guys want to know more about that offline. We also shared really fascinating field reports. Students talking about how they successfully picked up girls using what we teach. And basically, the sales letters are so interesting that even though they're 30 pages long, the average person will actually read them 8 to 10 times when surveyed before they actually buy the product, because it's just so much fun. You read our sales letter and it's like reading a book that you can't put down. It's pretty crazy. So here's an example of a comic strip. This is actually filmed in London at the Sheraton Hyde Park, where called an Amex concierge. They found a costume shop in Camden. We pretended to be doctors of pickup. And our instructor, Jeffy, he's working out, and we were saying something to the effect of, look at this guy's pickup skills are off the radar. This guy is just doing such amazing things. And just it was like a whole sequence. Like, so throughout the sales, there's little comics. Here's a picture like beforehand of Ozzy dressed like a chode, complete douchebag. But he's a very cool guy. Here's a video of my business partner picking up a girl, literally. And you can actually see the whole video when you actually go through our seminars or go through our program, or even go to the website. You can see like a few minutes teaser of what that actually looks like. So in addition to that, we are actually doing all the proper systems and campaigns that you run when you're an internet marketer. So we're doing things like going to discussion boards, managing our own discussion boards, posting on other people's discussion boards, building our own articles, video blogs. We had like chats where people could go into group chats, organizing phone trees. We had an email newsletter. We have different email newsletters with different email sequences. We organize regular weekly webinars and conferences. Our last conference on the web with Julian, one of our newest instructors, he's the guy who dropped out of school when he was 18, and in order to survive, he actually moved to LA, got a doctor to become his sugar mama, who took care of him, gave him an allowance. She's like a 40, 50-year-old woman, and he's like an 18-year-old guy, but he was an unpaid intern for 3 years. And he just did a webinar teleconference, so now he's an instructor making a ton of money and traveling around the world as a 21-year-old kid. And he had 2,000 people on his last webinar. We also do a lot of online affiliates. So we have over 1,000 affiliates that market their stuff, and then they say, hey, check out these guys, they're the best in the world at what they do. We also do retargeting. One of my friends created a company called retargeter.com. Highly recommend it. Retargeting is a service that allows you to actually see your company's ads on every website, so that if someone goes to your website, as you suppose you spending $100,000 for a month advertisement on Honda.com, suddenly every time someone's going to Honda.com to buy a Honda, they see your ads instead. And they're like, what's going on with these guys? These guys are everywhere. And it's because you get a little file called a cookie that's downloaded onto your computer, and it retargets your ads. You can do this on Facebook and every other site. We also do text and banner advertisements, so you can see them on the right side. Everyone kind of knows what they look like. You see them everywhere. Article syndication, so someone could take our articles and post them to other people's websites, create joint ventures. And we were spending $6,000 a day in 2005 or 2004, something like that, on Google AdWords just to market our stuff. We were, of course, making more than that, so it was worth it. Then we launched a blueprint. So for 5 years, Tyler was talking about releasing a book. We got offered about $40,000 from Random House UK to release this book through them. And we said, you know what, we could probably do it better ourselves. And we turned them down. In fact, if you actually look at my business partner, whose name is Owen Cook, he goes by the nickname Tyler, you actually will see that the book is actually available for pre-order on Amazon, and do not buy it, because we are not releasing the book through Amazon or through Random House. It's like a subsidiary of Random House. But for some reason, they thought it'd be really cool just to keep us up there. But maybe we should have gone through the deal, because Owen never released the book. However, what he did do was he created a DVD set. So what he does to create a DVD set is kind of like what Mark here did. He organized a seminar for you guys, then he recorded the seminar. And after doing it 4 times, he took the best seminar and turned it into a 20-hour DVD set, sold for $600. And in the first day, we made tons of money. I think the first month was about $300,000 in sale. The first year was about $1.85 million in sales off this DVD. It was pretty awesome. And I thought this was great. So I was partying my butt off. I was organizing parties like the picture in the background, which is an event from Xeni, which no longer exists, because what we used to do is allow hip-hop artists to come to this party. I was on the members advisory board. And I told them, look, people don't really care about these hip hop artists. They care about the experience, meaning girls, meaning cool guys. But what they did is they invite hip hop artists to perform in exchange for inviting their entourage. And their entourage aren't the cool guys that you actually see, like balling it up and drinking from bottles and bottle service where they drop $250,000 in like a week bottle service and hot clubs. No, they're the guys from the Boys in the Hood videos. So they would scare people away. And as a result, when those kind of guys come, girls get scared, girls start not coming, guys stop paying. Investors pulled out. But it was an awesome experience for while it lasted until things started changing. So in 2007, 2008, our website obviously looks a lot more modern. It has to be, because every website on the internet that makes any money at all looks more modern, more sophisticated, until the global recession. So I had this card. It's called the Black Card. We were spending so much money that I put all our company expenses also on this American Express. So to get this card, you have to spend $250,000 in a year. I was spending this every single month just on our business and operations and what have you. So I said, this is awesome. I got a Black Card. It has no limit. You could buy a house on it. It's not exactly like that. I actually had to put my dad's bank accounts in my name temporarily. He added my name because what American Express does is they actually check to see if you have at least 4 times the amount of money as the limit you want to spend, and then they'll actually give you that limit. So I did that, and it's funny because the banker actually said, we actually don't usually do this to verify how much money you have, other than for casinos. And then they gave me this card, and it was crazy because I used this card to fund our business, even when times were tough. So I never had any venture capital. I don't think a bank would actually loan money to a pickup artist company, especially since the industry didn't exist until we pioneered it. But basically what happened was the recession hit. People no longer wanted to travel to Los Angeles for boot camp. And suddenly I went from having a lot of money to, on a weekly basis, losing about $40,000 a week overall in the red, negative. So I was losing about $6,000 a day. Suddenly I went from living this awesome lifestyle to my party company disappearing, to me losing out on everything. It hit me hard. And I had now not $250,000 in debt, but I had $500,000 in debt on this credit card, and I had no idea how I was going to make the money to pay this off. So I call this the sad days of doom, because what happened was people stopped flying to Los Angeles after their disposable income dropped. I ended up getting rid of my BMW. I was living in a 1997 Toyota Avalon, the back seat, driving to the Sheraton LAX airport, driving around the back and parking there. And when I'm parking in the back of an airport parking lot, I'm actually still spending money. I'm paying rent. I'm paying $5 to $10 a day, depending whether it's a weekend or not, to actually sleep in my cheap-ass car, sneak into the hotel, use their free Wi-Fi, go to their gym, use their shower, and steal their food because I can't afford to buy anything. So I'm eating their fruits, like their strawberries, bananas, and apples. And I got basically everything I own sold, just so I could have enough money to spend any money to run the company. My business partner threatens to quit, and I decided to spend my last bit of money to figure out a way out of this. So I hired this consultant from Deloitte. He was like an intern for us. Fly down to Hawaii in one final attempt to save this company. And basically we created a business system, a model that changed everything. See, on the flight there, I saw an airline magazine. In the back of the airline magazine, like all airline magazines, you see a map. And I basically created a map of the world of what I was going to do next. But on top of all of that, before I tell you the plan, you know that splash page I said we used to have? Well, we created one that kind of looked like this, where basically you can't go to the next page until you actually enter your name and email or you hit the close button. The problem is Google suddenly out of nowhere banned these pages, which are called light boxes. Just flash up and you have to close it to go to the next page. Now they didn't tell anyone this, and back then there was no customer service to get a hold of Google. Even our personal reps couldn't get a hold of the right people. So as a result, for the next 3 years, we were banned from Google advertising. We had no way to advertise on Google, which is what most companies will say is 90% of how they get their business. So we had to go entirely back to word of mouth advertising once again. And this is a great capture, by the way. We actually figured out how to make it work today, which is instead of having it on your landing page, having it 2 clicks off your landing page, and only makes it appear the first time people go to your website with a one-time only cookie, and you'll get 20% of the people who actually click 2 clicks to see this to actually log into your site. We had one day where it was actually 40%, but 20% is the average. So we basically took this map of the world that I saw on the back of this airline magazine. I ripped it out of the magazine. I said to my business partner, look, we have a website with millions of people on it, almost 30 million people a year visit this website. What I will do is I will fly to every single city that's on this map, organize it into 30-day channels, and I'll just organize a free seminar. And our content's just so good that we'll convince a percentage of the people to sign up. And that's what we did. We had 40 to 400 people show up at every seminar, and 20% converted. My schedule looked like this. I'd wake up in the morning, I'd travel to some city, I'd have lunch in that city, I'd respond to regular business administration, I'd look for venues because I would send people to day game venues, which is venues that you could meet girls while they're in shopping malls, the street, festivals, or stuff like that. I'd send them out into the field and do a seminar. Do a little upsell, talking about our programs, and then I'd have dinner with students and sleep. And every day of the week I did this until I was completely burned out. And I actually met my wife on the very last day of this tour, and thank God, because I remember saying, I'm just so tired. I'm way too old for that now. Now we have 21-year-olds like Julian in the field. Basically, we did a massive overhaul. We cut our expenses huge. We said all executives in the company could only work 1 day out of 5 days. Anyone who stayed for 3 months will get their full-time job back. People who did are the most loyal guys in our company, and I'm glad we did so. My business partner and I reversed roles. I started instructing, he got more involved in business administration, and we did that for 1.5 years. We also developed our curriculum, made it word-of-mouth focused, and we made a mandatory board of directors meeting. So we would argue all the time, but we would now have a system whereby we could actually manage all of our protocol, manage our system. We have an agenda, KPI reports. We only talk about business once a month. It has to be in person. We make it fun. We do it over like a tasting meal or a dinner. We have all our people there, very strict protocol communication, certain amount of time. We have a timekeeper, very clear business agenda, and always a third-party executive presence. There's no he said, she said with you and your business partners. And I wanted to become like a role model for my company. So as opposed to the guy who's out there partying, I stopped partying. In fact, all I did was work out, work on business, and what have you. So I was doing so much working out. I was doing hours of working out at the gym whenever I could. I was doing a marathon or Ironman triathlon or like a race every single month. I was running operations, traveling. I was working on the train, on the plane, making phone calls. Regardless of where I was still going to monthly board meetings. And when I was in town in Los Angeles, I'd also organize a monthly mastermind group, which is with CEOs, non-competing industries, sharing advice, networking with each other. I was doing speaking engagements 1 to 3 times every single day. But nowadays, what we did was we have now instructors doing the exact same thing, but they can do it on a once-a-week basis. But I wanted to do this, and innovate these business systems and work harder than anyone else should possibly do, because I wanted to show what was possible. So if an instructor says to me, oh, I have to travel every single week, I said, dude, are you kidding me? I did this 1 to 3 times every single day, and I'm working out, and I'm running the company, and I'm doing X, Y, Z. And as a result, I don't get any complaints about crashing on couches or any of that. Are you kidding me? I did that for months. So now we did that, and within a few months of us doing that free tour, we were completely out of debt, extremely profitable, growing company, and remodeled our systems and everything. We have innovative designs. What's interesting is taking the old school systems that used to work and just converting old school sales that are in actual websites actually increases your revenue by 150%. This is something that I learned from a guy named Bishan, who I told you about earlier, who created this thing called IDE, Innovative Design Experience, which is not just about sales copy, it's how you represent your company. Everything needs to be congruent, whether it's in your personal life, your business life, or even your websites. So if you're gonna create this clash, it's not gonna work. So you're gonna have like this, for us, a really cool, innovative, classy, adventurous appearance. So we want to have that experience with our videos, our websites, and put it all together. So a sales letter is just one page. It's just not interactive enough. We want to be known as interacting with our clients, sharing experiences, and so a website's better at doing that. We now have really hardcore sales hustles. So we have all our programs following with a global product launch, kind of like a book tour. When we released this book called Get There, Die Trying through Simon & Schuster, the same guys who did The Game and Tucker Max. We did this global book tour, and it turned into an Amazon bestseller. Every instructor does free presentations in addition to all of the paid presentations. And also every day of the week, we have an instructor posting a video article. And each instructor gets their own dedicated week. So if you get great content, that's the way to go. Now, for some of you guys who are not necessarily experts in your field, you can find those experts, build a website that has great traffic, and inspire the people that are experts to post on your site. For us, we already have that internally. Because I'm just so paranoid of the content, because I know that pretty much everyone in my industry's content is pretty inferior. So what we do is we create so much awesome content that we don't need to advertise to grow our company. I think that's the best way to grow. However, we also invest more money than ever on mastermind groups. So these are some of the mastermind groups that I recommend. I think they're awesome. I guess my favorite one is the one that Digital Marketer does, called the War Room. It's $25,000, but it's awesome. Other ones like PSI, I'm a big fan of, because their business development team is actually advisors to us, and we're advisors to them. An entrepreneurs organization, I've been with them for 9 years. But in order to be in that club, you have to make over $1 million a year. But it's awesome. We're CEOs in non-competing industries just sharing advice. But some of the other ones you might want to check out, especially the ones like Mind Valley's, Awesomeness Fest, and stuff like that. But I think the most important part of any program is making sure you have happy clients. We'll deliver and we deliver value and over-deliver again and again. And these are the people that not just will be your clients, they'll be your friends, the people you hang out with. Make it so that they're willing to actually be your family. Create a brotherhood, not just in your company, but around your clients. They'll want to allow you to stay at their house. They'll invite you to cool things. The thing is, more than anything else, I always say field experience is king. You gotta try it. Go out in the field. A lot of people will say, oh, it's so easy. Just go on the internet and make an awesome business. But you gotta hustle. It's not all pancakes. And burn the boats. Develop the closure mentality. You guys know where burn the boats comes from. It comes from the Vikings. So the Vikings, before they invaded and pillaged and raped everyone, what they would do is they light all their boats on fire. Why? Because none of their men could retreat now. Now you have a situation where you have to go all the way. Now in business, that's what you gotta do if you want to build a successful company and really blow it up. And that's what we did. Gotta close. I think about guys like Ozzy in the back, and like the guys who are people that rely on this company to survive and grow. The thing is, everyone sees things in different ways. Everyone has a different point of view. One person will see something as bad, another person will see it as an opportunity. And you gotta look at everything as an opportunity. Because how the world sees you depends on how you see the world. It reminds me of a story I had. So I told you earlier I was in the Air Force, I was in Civil Air Patrol, and one time, I've even done zero gravity because I used to work for NASA and I did zero gravity experiences. And I got really fascinated by aircraft. For 2 years, I did all sorts of really interesting, awesome aerodynamic experiences. One was going to Vomit Comet. It goes to 60,000 feet and dives to 20,000 feet, creating parabolas. You could do zero gravity experiments. So I would do computers control systems, developing this thing called aerogel with my business partner at the time in college. It turned into a company called Aerogel Technologies. If you guys want to check it out, it's buyaerogel.com, I think. Well, just look it up. You can find it. Basically, they create this substance that is invisible when you make it in zero gravity in the right way, but it has like a blue tint to it because of the Rayleigh scattering when you make it in 1G. So anyway, I was really interested in aerospace stuff, and I got invited to do this fighter jet thing. So I was having dinner with Richard Branson, and he gave me this ticket to go fly a fighter jet. So I said, hell yeah, this is awesome. So I went down to Fullerton Air Force Base, and they got me this training program where I'm sitting in this room, and they're like, oh, as a fighter pilot, you need to move to the left and move to the right, then shoot the gun, and then you need to shoot missiles, and then you do like a barrel roll to avoid the enemy. And after 30 minutes of listening to tactics, I'm just kind of like, not even like listening exactly because it's so over my head. Then he said, okay, now come outside the back, put on your parachute, let's go in a plane. I'm like, oh, awesome. So this guy's now gonna fly a fighter plane. And I get to be in the fighter plane. This is fantastic. However, that's not exactly what happened. What happened was he takes off the plane, and then while we're flying in the air, he goes, by the way, if anything should happen, hit this eject button and we'll shoot out. Anyway, that guy over there, we're gonna go into formation. So we go in this formation. We're like so close to the plane, I could reach out and touch the other planes. But we're not like that. So basically what we do is we split apart, and we start flying towards each other. And the guy's like, okay, now go do it. I said, go do what? He goes, what do you mean? I spent the last 30 minutes talking to you about how to fly a fighter plane. Go shoot that guy down. The gun's right there. I'm like, dude, I don't know how to fly an airplane. Are you joking? He's like, okay, look, should I just push the ejection button right now? I'm like, no. He's like, okay, look, I'll help you, but you gotta do exactly what I'm saying. pull the stick forward. So I'm like, zoom. And a gentle touch, it makes me go down super fast. I'm like, whoa, as I pull back. He's like, now pull it up. So I pull up, and suddenly I'm going straight up, super fast. I mean, I go to the left, go to the right. I'm doing barrel rolls. I'm doing loop-de-loops. So he's like, shoot, go left, go right, pull down, go up, shoot the gun, shoot the gun. And at the end of that, I actually shot down the other plane. He didn't die. Like, smoke comes out, radar says, you killed him. And then he lands the plane, because they don't teach you how to land a plane in 30 minutes. But I had a great time. I tell you this story because I could have sat and not roomed up for 30 minutes, but for 30 years, I still probably would not know how to fly a fighter plane. But in 30 minutes, I knew how to not just fly a fighter plane, but win a dogfight. And the same applies for business. You got to go out there and just put things to the test. Because no matter how much you learn, you got to learn from the field. Seek the truth from those who are all seeking the truth. Learn for those who claim to have found it. You got to actually just go out and do things. Learn from the field. I'll tell you a quick story also before I wrap up about a guy who's like Middle Eastern royalty. He took one of my boot camps, and he didn't want to actually do approaches. I mean, this guy, I remember he took me to his house, and he has like a light shining out of his house, like the Luxor Casino in Las Vegas. Goes to outer space, but it's blue. This guy would take us to the clubs. He owns like 18 nightclubs in New York City. We'd go in a Phantom Rolls Royce, followed by limos full of models. We go to the club. Waiting for us at the club at the table is Leonardo DiCaprio, Daniel Craig, Beyonce's sister. And he's like making out with Beyonce's sister, and there's models everywhere. And I said, dude, why did you want me to do this boot camp with you? If you're not going to do any approaches, if you want me to just critique your social circle. He goes, well, I want you to help me also understand my lifestyle, get me into higher level social circles, maybe business social circles, higher level network groups. Help me like follow my passion. So we did that. We got him into cool network groups and mastermind groups. He started developing new businesses. I mean, he owns pharmacies, he owns nightclubs. But the interesting thing is he also turned himself into, he loves Russian girls. So he turned his company into a record label that sold 1 million records, so he went platinum in Russia, just so he could go pick up Russian girls. And he was very successful. And the thing is, he never would have thought he'd be able to actually do that or optimize identity, but he took a shot. And the thing is, those things that are scary to you, you got to pursue, because who knows what you'll see. You know, who knows what will happen when you see someone else's point of view, because it might not seem possible for you to yourself, but you could actually make it happen. Just remember, shatter the glass wall. In the Blueprint to Code, we always talk about this concept of how there's a glass wall around people, and you see yourself in a certain way. And that as a result, you usually end up not expressing your true self. You end up expressing what you think other people want you to be because of the impression that you believe that society wants you to look at because of the media. So as a result, in my boot camps, which I don't teach anymore because we have instructors to do so, I used to do this exercise. This is an exercise I learned from Ozzy. I ask my students to draw a picture of who they think they are. I say this because I want them to draw 2 pictures. One on the front in crayons, because it's not about art, skills, about who you really are deep down inside, and the other is about how you believe people see you. So one of my students drew a picture of this. Just to give you an idea what this is this is a cave. Coming out of the cave is a dragon. Surrounding the island are human heads on crosses. I mean, I designed this in Microsoft Paint. And there's like sharks in the water, the sky's full of vultures, and the weather sucks. And I'm not going to say that he was super weird, but he really was like this. This is how he saw himself. And he said to me, Nick, can I actually get girls to like me? Because this is who I am. I said, yeah, of course. Why? Who else gets girls like this? How about heavy metal stars, rock stars? It's not about how you dress. It's about how you can convey who you are. It's interesting rhythms of communication. And you could do that in your personal life and your business life. So remember, you're awesome. Now, what's the next step you guys can make? Well, if you guys want to see how we market, go to some of our sales letters. You can just click on any of our products from rscnation.com/store. If you want to check out RSC Nation, it's rscnation.com. You can see how we market our stuff so you can create your own version of what we're doing. Other than that, if you guys want to actually see a live program, I'll just give you a free ticket. Just go to, send me an email or send an email to support.realsocialstainless.com saying you want a free ticket, or just show up. There's one program, not just on June 6th, we also have a program next Thursday that you could go to, because we do programs almost every week in London. But that's pretty much it. In addition to that, since I don't have a product to sell you guys, I'm just here to offer value, I created a website just for you guys. It's hotapproach.com. It's a URL that I was going to use to create a an approach site company, not just for this, but for business, because we're actually training corporate executives on how to approach at sales presentations and cocktail receptions to actually close deals. We just did one for a company called BizNow, where you taught sales reps how to approach CEOs of multinationals and close $100,000 deals. But if you want to actually see some of our product launch formulas, how we launch programs, get some of our book lists, just go to hotapproach.com, enter your name and email, and I'll give that to you. And if you want to stay involved with RSD, stay in contact with me, here's my contact information. Here's a phone number to meet my assistants. Here's my username in RSD Nation, and here's my email address. So you can visit RSD Nation, stay in touch with me, but that's pretty much it. Thanks for allowing me to present to you today.